Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Stranded Survivors. My name is Matt. I'm one of your co-hosts, and I am joined here today with a very special guest, Antonio Pepperonio. Thank you so much for your time. How you doing today?
Well, Matt, thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for being here. So, Antonio, we've got you here. This is part two out of three for our gamer health series that we've got going on. Last week we did mental health with King Dodo. He's a psychology professional that we've got in our Discord here. Next week is King Dodo on the spiritual aspect, but this side, I would love to hear everything you've got to share with us about the physical health side of things. So, could we start off by getting a little bit of background about, your life, what drove you to a passion in fitness, and where you are today with it?
Yeah, I'd love to. So, I began my journey when I was 15 years old. I was dealing with just week after week of substantial back pain going to school and everything. So, my parents went and they took me to see a doctor, and the doctor told me that I had a pretty severe case of scoliosis. So, this meant that I needed to make a decision, and he told me I could get surgery. But at that time, the surgery I would need was pretty dangerous. And he told me there was a considerable risk of paralysis if my surgery or recovery went poorly, which, I was a child, so I was terrified of this option. And the second option was that I would essentially need to wait for the medical technology to improve. And in the meantime, I would need to start doing active corrective exercises and strength training consistently and permanently. I was a really small kid, like skin and bones, smallest in my class by far. I was unathletic and disinterested in sports because I had a really non competitive personality. I still do. Um, I was more of a gamer than anything physical. So I wasn't familiar with it, but I began there and I took the info my doctor gave me and I started reading to learn as much as I could about how to improve my strength and how to grow and build muscle. And I ended up just falling in love with it. I absolutely was enamored with it. Fitness gave me this sense of accomplishment and control as I watched myself become strong, and I learned more about nutrition. So I gained even more feeling of control and expression as I learned how to mold and shape my body to how I wanted it to be. So naturally, I fell right into bodybuilding from there, and it culminated when I was age 24, where I earned my first personal training certification from the National Strength and Conditioning Association. So I started working professionally as a fitness professional and personal trainer, and then a little bit later as a nutrition coach full time. And I just kept falling more in love with it, especially through watching my clients reach their goals and change their lives in big, meaningful ways. So a few years later, though, is when things really changed pretty drastically for me, though. The scoliosis that I had been, staving off with my consistent physical strength training had sort of just been sitting in the background, mostly maintained, still having signs of, pain here and there. And I started showing some signs of nerve issues. And my daily pain was really increasing drastically. And it reached a point where I was getting, daily pain and migraines pretty much every day that was causing this extreme nausea. And I kept going with everything. I'm a very motivated person, so I kept working through with my career and with bodybuilding to the point where I started vomiting probably 20 plus times a day at its worst. And this obviously led to this inability to keep nutrients down. So I started just hemorrhaging weight and had extreme damage to my digestive system from it. I went from 172 pounds to 88 pounds in just 6 months.
Holy
My
crap.
doctor, yeah, is pretty extreme. My doctor even told me, like, look, you've got to get a feeding tube or you're going to die. So I had to get one. And using that, I was able to slowly, just using like already liquid nutrient rich, like medicine food, basically, that would go straight through the feeding tube. Um, we slowly rebuilt my digestive system over 2 years, and we tested like medication options for dealing with the migraines that were happening, the daily, nausea, the daily pains that were happening from the nerve situation that was happening from the worsening, just the degradation of my back. And throughout all of that, I was still continuing my fitness journey as much as I could. It was immediately noticeable in my daily pain levels if I didn't exercise. And it was one of those few things that I had control over even at my worst. And it was also this experience of sudden disability that gave me an opportunity when I was stuck in bed, or later when I get a little better, in a chair most of the day, almost every day. And with this downtime, I was getting just depressed, being isolated. And that's what kind of leads me to Arc. I've been playing already for years before I got sick, but um, like even early access days on Xbox, it was like probably within the first couple of weeks that it came out. A friend had
Oh
showed
wow.
it to me. Yeah, a friend showed it to me, and I loved it so much. I immediately went to I drove from his house to Best Buy and bought an Xbox so I could keep playing Ark. And
The dedication
yeah, I
is real.
loved it. It was like instantly loved this game. I love dinosaurs, always have. It's been a huge like side interest of mine. And it like if I hadn't gone into fitness, I would have went into something like archaeology or something. And so I've just automatically fell in love with Ark as a dinosaur game. There's not a lot of those, and this one was right up my alley, having a building system. So I started on official PvP for some reason, and stayed there for years. Then had a short stint in PvE, and then I switched to PC. I built my own computer specifically for Ark, and landed on unofficial servers from there. And it was really when I became disabled, when I was stuck in bed and in that chair for so long. I initially wasn't able to play games, but now that I had got that feeding tube, and I was starting to be able to stay awake and game again, I just poured myself into Arc. And it was really at that time that I got into Arc building system and started getting really good at it. I got pretty decent in ASE, although I was playing on a private server that just belonged to me. So I was kind of just building these really cool builds and nobody was seeing them. It was just for me. So I was feeling this like loneliness and uh, from being, housebound and disabled. So everything changed again when I found Monarchy. I had seen a couple of videos of it through YouTube. Thought the playstyle looked really fun, and I found out they had a community server. So I joined in, started building cool stuff there, and that was during their Tinea Stella season. And from there, I just started making friends, and it was like incredible. I became socially fulfilled. I was happier than I had been in years, obviously being so sick and isolated. And the community that the Monarchs have cultivated there really uplifted me. Like the next thing I knew, I was building the community hubs for every server they had each season, and I was getting invites to build cool things for the creators. One of the Monarchs in particular, Kaya, she was pretty instrumental in motivating me to start producing building content on YouTube and Twitch. And since that time, I've gotten my health to a much more managed position. I've gotten way better at building, especially since ASA came out. And I'm still fairly disabled. So nowadays, Arc and fitness are like these two sides of my life. I spend as much time as I can physically withstand in the gym or, coaching others, still pursuing, my passion in fitness. And then the other times when I'm maybe flaring up, I'm stuck in a chair, medicated, and I'm feeling low, I can hop onto Arc, express my creativity through building and share it with people on YouTube and through Monarchy. And in that way, Arc and fitness are extremely important to who I am and my overall health. I think that about covers it, though. I could go on forever about it.
What a deep answer. Oh my gosh, man. You have experienced like an entire lifetime of journey and perseverance. How did you get yourself to keep moving? Because at 15 years old, I didn't have the perseverance that I have as an adult, and I can see my own personality, it would have been very easy for me to fall into the victim mentality of, oh no, this is what I'll be, and I would have turned myself into a pity party rather than, finding this amazing outlet and way to help manage your pain and stuff. So how did you find that level of perseverance at such a young age?
Um, Couple things. I mean, first of all, I did to a degree fall into that hole of like, oh, woe is me. I mean, I watched my entire savings vanish in a matter of 6 months when because I got so sick I couldn't work. And the medical expenses are not cheap. So I was pretty depressed. I ended up having to move back in with my parents for a few years, which was absolutely just horrible. I didn't exactly have like the best relationship with my dad, so it was kind of tough being back at home with him too. I was definitely struggling. Um, I think fitness, truthfully, it's kind of not that I had the perseverance to keep up with fitness, but it was more that by the time I had become disabled, I had already well and truly developed not just like um a need to continue, like a need to continue with this fitness stuff because I already loved it so much for so long. It wasn't just the habit keeping me going, but it was like the thing that was keeping me going. Um like doing this and sticking with it, especially, having lost all my bodybuilding is it's a thing where I took 6+ years to develop my physique and I lost it all in 6 months. And that was really hard psychologically on me. But knowing that I had done that, that I was smart enough to do it the first time and I was driven enough to do it the first time, I knew that I could do it again if I just stuck with it no matter what. So it kind of kept me going as this thing that I knew that I could work on and continue improving in whatever way that I could. Um, and then in the spaces where I didn't see progress on the fitness side of things and I felt like I lacked control, um, came creative outlets. I couldn't do a lot of the outlets that I had done before in my life, like cosplay or theater. Um, so I kind of leaned on more, things I can do sitting down, drawing, painting, and particularly arc building. And creative expression really kind of kept me maintaining like a sense of a reason to keep going, even if it was just, I have an idea for a cool build. I at least into existence. If just a short term thing
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, that can be really powerful. Those short-term goals and that motivation and distraction more than anything else, I guess. Do you think that arc is more of a distraction for you, fitness is more of a distraction for you, or are they two separate scratches that need to be itched at different times? Is there a crossover there? Does how do you know when it's time to dive into a build or when it's time to dedicate more time to fitness as far as like helping your mental health state go?
Yeah, so I mean, that's a good question. I'd say like if I have editing to do, then I tend to think of it as more of a good time to go work out. I like to procrastinate. So I kind of just jump back and forth. A good time to build is when I'm procrastinating, getting up and going and doing my strength training. And a good time to strength train is when I'm procrastinating a struggling aspect of the build. So it's really just like um, not burning myself out on one or the other. If I'm feeling burnt out on one, I'll go do the other. If I'm feeling burnt out on the other, I'll go do the other one. I try not to overdo too much of one thing and burn myself out on it. I'm all about balance. I'll never work out more than 2 hours a day, even though I would love to. I have a full exercise addiction, so you do it as long as I have, and it's like inevitable that you're going to become addicted to like just the indigenic morphine response you get from strength training. So I don't really have to try to maintain that habit. It will happen on its own. Um, And then when it comes to creative expression, I'll always have a need to do that. And having developed my arc building skills to where they are, it's just a really great, convenient way for me to express that creativity.
That makes a lot of sense. Um, I'm gonna throw you for a loop here with a random question that just popped into my head. So,
Let's do it.
strength fitness, strength training and stuff like that, that's a lot of times that's as easy as, I'm feeling stressed, I'm gonna go pick things up and put them down. I understand that there's more to it than that. You have to be smart, you have to target your specific muscle groups, but strength training seems to be one of those things that I can convince myself to go do. I've got PTSD, and for some reason, if I wake up and I say, even though you don't want to, today is cardio day, you're going to go run on the treadmill, my brain automatically perceives cardio as like a violent threat, and there goes trigger mode. How would you encourage somebody who struggles to get into fitness because of a mental health barrier like that to overcome that initial I can't do this because that's a threat to myself?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we share this. I also have PTSD from. I was diagnosed with it after losing all that weight. I couldn't step on a scale. I associated a lot of my self worth through my bodybuilding progress, and that losing all of that actually really devastated me and gave me PTSD to the point where I couldn't look at a scale for many years without having that kind of response. But that aside, when it comes to your psychological relationship with fitness, it's extremely important to practice positive self-talk, to challenge yourself when like you said, you're having this thought of you have to go do it. You shouldn't be. You should, when you catch yourself thinking in this way, you should take a moment to reprimand yourself for speaking to yourself or about yourself in this way. You don't have to go do cardio. You get to go do cardio. We have, as humans and as a society, sort of put this context around our relationship with fitness as it can be competitive or it can be something that's supposed to be difficult, that's supposed to kind of hurt. Like everybody's heard no pain, no gain, right? It's not
Yep.
necessarily how it needs to be. When you if you have a dog and your dog wants to go for a walk, you even say the word walk and they'll get pumped. They're amped. They're so ready to get out there and do some movement. It's just about like finding that like primal joy of movement that other animals have that we kind of have forgotten in the way that we contextualize sports as like, that this is our prime form of athleticism, and it's mired by this context of competition that isn't necessary for 90% of people's relationship with movement or with fitness. So I think it's a matter of finding what exercise speaks to your interest, like what you enjoy doing, what like the dog is happy to go for a walk. What kind of exercise makes you happy to go do it? And then go do that. If that's like beating yourself up with weight training, go beat yourself up with weight training. If it's, running, go run. If it's badminton, go badminton. If it's swimming, go swimming. Whatever it is, go do it. It can be dancing. Dancing is one of the best ones that you can do. It's very functional movement, hits pretty much every single one of your muscle groups and is great for blood flow and stress reduction. So that would be my answer is focus first on your relationship, your psychological relationship with the exercise that you're doing.
Dang, that, it sounds so easy, but it makes so much sense. Yeah, that's good advice. Good advice right there. What about for those of us that aren't in peak shape? To be totally honest with you, as a society, some of America is not as fit as we would like to be. So a lot of us have not quite reached the level of fitness and physicality that we would have liked to see in our life. So for those of us that feel like we have a starting point that may be a little bit different than our neighbors, how would you encourage to build that relationship from square one? If you're somebody who has never once done anything athletic and you now want to better yourself for your heart health, how would you encourage somebody who has never once even thought about their fitness to start?
Um, I think, like I was saying before, you definitely want to start with building your psychological relationship with it, and it really comes down to building a habit. Habits are extremely easy to maintain once they're developed. Really, it's about 90 days of doing something. You're generally going to form a habit. So I would try to get over that. That kind of could be like your first hump to get over, and just build that habit. You don't have to overthink necessarily what it needs to be. It doesn't need to be doing push-ups and sit-ups and, on the treadmill. It just needs to be a time that you set aside for your physical movement. And I think if you're just completely, like, totally confused as to where to start, if you're too scared to begin something, I think there's nothing wrong with just starting at home. You could do there's tons of great calisthenic routines available for free. There's all kinds of great creators. It can be hard to find good ones versus bad ones, but you don't need to overthink it right now. Just find some calisthenic routines that like work for you or whatever your comfort level is and start doing that comfortable stuff. It can be, like I said, dancing, swimming, badminton. It can be sport. It can be working out at home. If you do have the financial freedom to afford a trainer or even just a coach, like to build your workouts for you, if you're not like at that point where you're ready to work one on one with somebody who's going to teach you how to train, or I think that's probably the move, for those who have the financial capacity to do so. Get yourself a trainer or get yourself a coach that'll build out your workouts for you, and then they can explain how to do them, and you can go do them on your own. Um, just think of it as a buildup. It's a slow buildup that you're working on this behavioral pattern that's going to maintain itself over time. You're not in a rush. Getting to the gym even doesn't need to be your step one. It can be a step down the road for you. Um, you might feel a bit silly, not really knowing what you're doing, but that's totally okay. Do it in your own room with an audience of your cat or dog, and just get your body moving, whatever way feels good, and you'll find your way at your own pace. The trick's just take on a new fitness habit as if it's a permanent addition to your life and it's something that you're going to keep doing forever. And as you do it, you'll level up in it, you'll evolve, you'll transcend your techniques and your comfort level, and you'll learn more and you'll get better and better.
That makes sense. It's logical. Um, forgive me if this requires you to backtrack and repeat yourself, but maybe it's a parallel question, maybe it's the same question with a different flavor.
Yeah.
One of the hardest parts about starting off, I I'm such a scrawny fella. I graduated high school at 120 pounds soaking wet, and I'm now the heaviest I've ever been at the big weight of 150 pounds. And
Hmm.
I'm 5'9", so I'm not a short fella. I'm not a tall fella, but I'm not nearly. I've always struggled to gain weight, and it's always been intimidating to go to the gym because I'm not
Yeah.
as strong as other men. I'm not as much as XYZ. So how does one go through that? It's really hard to wait my turn on a machine and be like, oh geez, let me remove 60 pounds so I can go through and do the same exercise that this kid half my age just did.
Yeah. Um, that intimidation, it's there. I think if I'm honest, I have to every once in a while change my gym, and I feel very anxious and nervous going to a new gym every single time. I think what it comes down to is just simply that it's unfamiliar, and the best thing to do would be just get out and get to that gym. Go in there, and the more that you're there, the more comfortable you're going to get there. You'll quickly find that you'll become more comfortable. You'll find which treadmill you use. That's your treadmill. You'll kind of have your routine, and it'll start to feel more comfortable because it's known to you. So that's really like an essential part of every, like, starting a new gym. But you don't have to go to a gym, right? Like I was saying in the previous
Yeah.
question, you can do stuff at home and get more familiar with just your own physical ability at first. But I assure you that like the only people that are judging how much weight you're doing at the gym are people who don't understand how complicated uh just how complicated the subject really can be and how different there could be 1,000 different reasons for doing certain reps or certain weights. Um, you could see a big, huge buff guy that you expect to be doing like a ton of weight, but he might exclusively work for hypertrophy where he just maximizes how much muscle he's getting. And he might almost never strength train. So you could end up being stronger than him, even though he's like absolutely looks like a monster. It's it's really only the people who are super uneducated that are going to make a judgment based off like a weight value that somebody's using. So you shouldn't really like put your care and concern in the types of people that are going to judge you based on your weight because those kind of people are just going to prevent you from overcoming these hurdles that you have psychologically and doing what you want for yourself in terms of your physical goals, you know? Um, so really fear is just it's an obstacle that everybody faces in their own time and their own pace. And I think you should find a pace that is comfortable for you, that challenges you a little bit, but not over much. And one of those hurdles certainly will be that there's a time where if you've been working out at home, you've been doing it for a while and you want to take the next step up and start working with weights, doing some dumbbell stuff or have access to machines that you don't have at home, then you should just get up and go to that gym. And worst case scenario, if you don't like the vibe of the gym, there's a bunch of other ones you can choose from.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is fair. So I mean, I guess what I'm hearing is kind of treat it like a new job, and you just got to get through the first day jitters, eh?
It really is that. You'll get comfortable there. People in the gym are there to self improve. You know, most of the people there are kind, helpful, welcoming. You know, and we're all there to just work on improving ourselves. We have some aspect of our physique, or maybe it's our performance or something that we're all working on, and we can kind of like unite in that shared experience of training and improving ourselves.
That's fair. That's fair. So I mean, I guess that scary guy who's staring me down across the gym isn't judging me. He's just listening to some really interesting audiobook, right?
Yeah, or he's pumping himself up for his next set. I know a lot of times I look very scary when I'm working. My clients have told me this, that I look like I'm mad when really what I'm doing is usually practicing some form of self talk in my head. You know, chanting like it's easy weight. It's easy weight. You can do like something like that. Those are motivating psychologically. Some people do it out loud. Everybody has their little rituals for amping themselves up, but most people are pretty interested in their own workout. Chances are, anytime I catch myself looking at someone in the gym, it's because they are impressing me most of the time. There's something that they're doing that's impressing me. Otherwise, it would be like because I'm a professional, I can tell when someone's doing something really dangerous and concerning. Um, so I might,
That's
that's
probably it right there.
in that sense. But I would just come up and let them know if they were doing that. I wouldn't be rude to them, and I think people who don't understand what they're doing usually pretty much appreciate that. Um, but then there's other ways that you can become more comfortable with it depending on your personality. I think another good way is, when you're joining a gym, find out, when they do, most gyms have group classes. Find a group class that maybe you're interested in, and everybody in group class are like the most friendly people. Group class is the most social place. It's a great way to meet some people at the gym so you don't feel alone and uncomfortable.
Really? Okay. See, I would have figured that group sessions would be even more scary because, everybody already knows what's going on.
Oh, to a degree. You just stand in the back, people, that's what they always do. All the newbies will always go to the back, and the instructor will see you back there struggling, and they'll more than likely they're going to force you to be involved. And it doesn't take long to realize that those group sessions are where all all the like nicest people in the gym end up a lot of the times. So it's a really good place. It's definitely a place I don't typically radiate towards group sessions, but if I ever want to get to know people in my gym, that's the first place I go.
Okay. All right. That's good to know. Good to know. Because, I mean, finding that accountability partner, we talked about it in one of the earlier episodes that those accountability partners are extremely important. And I feel like fitness
Yeah.
almost arguably as much, if not more than mental health, you really need that accountability partner.
Yeah, for sure. Depending on your personality, some people there are rare people that are very very self-motivated, and this is a rare personality type, but most people benefit from having somebody to work out with, or just somebody to who's going to notice if you don't make the gym that day, who might be like, "Hey, you okay? Are you sick?" or something like that. And then make you think twice about skipping next time.
That's fair. That's fair. Good point. Uh, Well, flipping it back into arc here real quick. So you talked a little bit about I can't remember if it was before we started recording or after we started recording, but you talked to me a little bit about the experiences you've had playing PvP. So in PvP, you got to build those thick outer layers of protection. You got to build up your defenses and stuff like that. How do you
Yes.
compare building your bases, keeping them strong with that good foundation, to building up that same foundation in personal fitness? Where's the crossover between arc and base building?
Well, the crossover is this: you have to learn from your mistakes. If a dino comes and wipes your base out because you had no plants, no turrets to protect you, or because you decided to build somewhere like right in the middle of all the spawns with the worst geography, you're going to learn from that, or you quit. And next time you build a base, you'll pay a little bit more attention where you place it, to what the geography's like, or how much you plan your defenses. So when you work out, you're gonna probably eventually injure yourself. You're gonna mess up a goal, or you're gonna work out too hard, make yourself throw up. You're going to. It's gonna happen. You're gonna make a mistake. And a lot of people will quit. They'll get scared off and they'll be too scared to try again, when really what you should do is maybe talk to professionals, talk to your doctor if you injured yourself to that degree, trainers, physical therapists. Do what you have to do. Do your own research on it. Accredited sources, of course. There's a lot of misinfo out there, so always look for accredited sources like the NSCA. um, just fully understand where you went wrong. There's plenty of resources out there on how to build a good defendable base in Arc, and there's plenty of good resources out there to learn how to do anything that you're trying to do in fitness. And sometimes some exercises are going to be contraindicated for some people. Sometimes it's a misunderstanding of form or any number of issue, but whenever you mess up, you got to learn from it. You got to try again. In fact, Arc's protagonist is called The One Who Tries Again. That title, when I first heard it, it resonated with me enough to hit me emotionally. When that came out, I think it was Genesis 1. I know that I was deep in my biggest depression I ever had when I was at my sickest. I had my feeding tube. I was really, really ill. And it really resonated with me because I do not ever give up when it comes to fitness, whatever it is. I had that feeding tube and I could barely shower, but you bet I was still on the floor doing ab exercises every single day. I tried again. You always have the capacity to learn from your mistakes, both in arc and in fitness, and you have the capacity to try again.
I love that. Yeah, that quote has been brought up in so many different episodes by so many different guests. And I feel like it's one of the lines that resonates most,
Yeah,
possibly
it's
most
incredible.
powerfully with arc players. It's really game changing. It's one of those moments that, very few games have the power to make something so impactful that it comes out. That's that.
You get
See, I'm getting all
goosebumps.
frazzled, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a quote I'd
Yeah.
be willing to tattoo on my body.
It's a good one. It's a good one. The writers really were cooking when they hit that one. It like there was a couple of times where I heard it and it like choked me up. I was like, "Whoa, that's good." So
Yeah,
I'm not
makes
surprised
you
a lot
wonder
of
what the
people
writer
had
was going through.
something. Something.
Oh God, one of the one of the long things, so we talked about this a little bit because you talked about how you got to make fitness a lifelong change. It's got to be something you stick with. You got to approach it like it's going to be a permanent part of your life moving forward.
Yes.
That's a grind, man. That's a grind with no other flavor of the word. So, where's the crossover here for the grinding of resources, the grinding of fitness? Which one is more time consuming? Which one's more labor intensive? And which one is more mentally taxing, in your opinion?
You know, it depends on how you do it. I'm no stranger to grind. We were talking before we started recording about we both play old school RuneScape, and
Yeah.
I think that's probably the grind. Like old school, I've been playing it since I was a child, still grinding on it, and I learned that grind early from RuneScape, and it transitions over into fitness. And to be honest, I kind of do it the other opposite way around. I kind of treat everything in Arc like it's fitness, where that to break up that grind, like let's say I need 50K stone. Yeah, you could go out, do a marathon run and get that all in one go, or you could split it up into reps. 1K stone is like super easy to do, right? So go get 1K stone, or have a set start and finish route that you can do as one rep. I have a list of reps that I need to do at a certain time in each day for all my like little arc chores, right? So it's all
Yeah.
about chopping up large tasks down into more manageable tasks. That always makes things easier for you psychologically. Um, Moving a mountain, that feels impossible, but moving 10 stones doesn't. So move 10 stones every day for 10 years, and just like that, you've moved your mountain. So fitness is just like that. It shouldn't be very hard. Whatever you're doing shouldn't be too hard. Like I was saying earlier, like you always hear no pain, no gain. You shouldn't be in a rush to hit a fitness goal. You should be aware of it, have it there, and be doing what you need to do it. But it should be calculated to your comfort level and pace it out properly. Or you're just going to burn out, right? Like grinding out 50K stone. Go do that in one session. You're going to feel kind of burnt out. So split it up.
Yeah, splitting it up, that's chunking is such an important psychological tool. Like whether it's fitness, whether it's, even at work, I do the same exact thing at work. It's
Yes.
really hard for me to sit there and be like, "Oh my God, I'm all done today. I can't answer any more phone calls. Don't email me anymore." And I still have 2 hours left. That
Hmm.
sounds really, really hard. But if I have to get through 15 minutes 8 times, that for some reason that sounds way easier than two
Yes.
hours.
Yes, this is actually a super common thing that people with cardio do as well when they're like running and they're trying to hit like a performance goal and they're running it. That can be very difficult, right? That's one of the hardest things to do in fitness is improve your VO2 through like intense cardio. And that's what people will do. They'll sit there and count. They'll be like, if I do this many minutes this many times, then I get to here. If I make it to here, then I only have this many more reps to do. Like it splitting that up and thinking about it that way, incredibly valuable with fitness, just like it is in arc or in your case at work.
Yeah, yeah, man, chunking. It's not just a math thing.
Yeah, yeah. I have a background in psychology as well, so you probably can tell that.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say I can tell that you are very educated on the subject. It's I'm loving hearing your take on all this. It's very fascinating to me. Um,
Yeah, happy to
we
share.
we talked a little bit about how hard it is for some people, myself especially, to get into the gym the first time. It's real scary. I live in an area where the college football team quite often crashes the Planet Fitness, so it's there's a the comparison is the thief of joy. So that's neither here nor there. But
Yeah.
day one in the gym, it's hard, it's scary, it's spooky. I talked in a previous episode with somebody about day one in Arc. How do you do that crossover there? Because Arc is so unforgiving in the sense of kind of like gym workout. You know you're supposed to go run on a treadmill. You know you pick up heavy things. That's how you get stronger. In Arc, you know you have to not get killed by dinosaurs, but that's really all you get. So I mean, how hard and intimidating was day one in Arc for you?
Well, you know, I am one that loves a good challenge. I enjoy being challenged, so for me, it kind of comes naturally. But I think as far as like getting that day one, it's really just comes down to maybe being overwhelmed with not just, especially like it's a lot different day one in Arc, right? If you're a day one, beach bob, and you've never played Arc before, that's a lot different than being a beach bob on your, 5 years into playing Arc, right? So
Right.
I think that it's just a matter of like understanding you're gonna do some stuff wrong. That feeling of being nervous or being anxious about starting, or even worrying about the all the big buff guys at the gym, just comes down to remembering, like I said, that everybody's there to improve themselves, even those big buff guys. So you're all kind of on the same playing level on that sense. You all have the desire to improve. And I think it can be tough, right? What do you tell a beach bob on day one? How do you tell someone how to play Arc? It's like, just get out there and do it. You'll start learning. You'll start learning. Be open to meeting and talking to people. They'll teach you stuff you never would have known, and take things with a grain of salt too, because you'll meet people that, you'll ask them a question and they might, lead you into the swamp or something. Or like back to I was talking about RuneScape earlier, like, they might lead you to the wilderness. Who knows? But you have to be open to just experiencing it. And as you experience it, you'll become more comfortable with it, and that anxiety will fade.
That's actually super valid. You bring up a strange rabbit hole for me. What would be the fitness equivalent of taking a day one gym member and feeding them narco berries? What would be the fitness equivalent of that?
I've done that before, my friend. It was a guy who I had a client. He was a prospective client, wasn't a client yet. I was giving him a few free workouts, and I had a session with him. He came to me a couple days later and he complained that he didn't feel that sore, and he felt like he didn't really want to continue with training because he didn't feel like I was an intense enough trainer. And
Ooh.
I told him, "Are you sure I can do an intense workout? Are you sure that that's what you want?" And he said yes. And so I put him through a much, much stronger workout, a much stronger workout, something that like I would do. And I didn't see him for like 4 or 5 days. And when he came in, he was still like struggling to waddle up the stairs. And he he never asked for an intense workout like that ever again. I'll tell you that. Sometimes people just have to learn the hard way. I would never be the person to give a beach bob, 900 narcos, but if he's complaining that the berries I did give him didn't give him enough food for long enough, then, maybe he gets the narcos.
You and I are very different teachers then. I'm the guy that I'm gonna force feed you 100 narco berries, handcuff you, drag you to a cage, and then let you wake up and give you about 5 minutes to figure it out before I let you out.
Yeah, learn the hard way. Yeah, I'm over mostly a pretty nice trainer. I tend to usually, when I have somebody who's more interested in the like drill sergeant type trainer, I have friends that I'll send them to. Usually, I'm more of the cheerleader type.
Let's go. I can appreciate that. I don't do well with the drill sergeant stuff. That would end up pushing me away from the workouts.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's different types of trainers, and if the best thing you can do always for like not feeling like a beach bob at the gym is get a trainer. And if you don't necessarily like the first one you find, there are a lot. There's different personalities, different people who have different approaches towards it. There's like cheerleader type. There's the drill sergeant. There's the like hype beast. There's the like logical, like calculating type, that would just throw like a bunch of big words at you. that you don't understand. But some people find that that's what they want. You know, they want to hear proprioceptive at them, and they don't know what it means, but it makes them feel comfortable that I know what I'm talking about. So whatever it is
Yeah.
that the client needs, you know, if you meet a trainer that's not your vibe, just keep looking. Find one you like.
That is actually the exact advice that I give people when they're looking for therapists. Do you ever take the old therapist approach? And there's the exact same therapist will have six different treatment approaches based on each individual client's need. Do you ever go from
Yes,
that cheerleader role to a totally different? Are you hat A,
absolutely.
hat B, hat C, or are you the same person?
Yeah, I have a couple different hats that I can use that I have accessible with my genuine personality, and I have a couple hats that I cannot morph myself into because it's just not who I am, like the drill sergeant. I'm not capable
Yeah.
of giving that to people. I'm uncomfortable with it, so I send them to someone who's better at it.
Okay. That's logical. Yeah, it's interesting. I had never the crossover between physical trainers and therapists had never crossed my mind before, but after you worded it that way, I'm noticing a
It's
very interesting crossover there.
I think the crossover also has to do with my approach at I have a psychology background. So like I went to college for it, didn't end up using it. But I apply it to my fitness career. And I don't think a lot of trainers probably approach it the same way as I do because of my psychological background. But I know other trainers who, take psychology a little bit more as an important aspect of their job. And I think personally, I mean, maybe it's maybe it's a little bit of narcissism, but I think it's a better way.
I think it's a better way too. If you really look at it on a deep level, physical fitness is an extremely powerful coping tool. You can release a lot of
Yeah.
very powerful chemicals in the brain through physical fitness. So I mean, in a way,
Hmm.
you are providing a mental health service through the work that you do.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm careful to say though on this topic that fitness is never a replacement for therapy.
No,
Ever. You
no, it
hear
is not.
people say like, "Bro, the gym's all the therapy I need." No, it's not. No, it's not. That you need to also get therapy. The gym won't help you introspect. You have to do that on your own, and you have to work on other psychological things in the appropriate setting. The gym is not a full replacement for therapy, but it can be a very powerful therapeutic tool.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It has a lot of extreme benefits. And I mean, just from a mental health aspect, I can tell you the difference between the weeks that I have gone to the gym once or twice, the weeks that I have worked out at home every single day, or the weeks that I haven't worked out at all. You know what I mean? There's a very
Yes.
big difference, in not only your sleep levels, the amount of energy that you have, how sluggish you're feeling, how you even digest food and process your waste and things like that. There's a lot of differences from working out and not.
Yeah, it's an important regulatorial function that, every animal needs to do, and humans are animals.
Truth be told, um, if you could throw at us I understand, I'm not trying to get you to work for free because I understand this is your bread and butter here, but if you had to throw just a quick survivor's workout, let's say I want to play Ark for 2 hours, I want to have a controller in my hand, but I also want to be dedicating some of those 2 hours to physical fitness. What's a quick survivor's workout that our gamers can be doing while playing?
Okay, so well, first of all, I don't think I could like rightfully ethically create like a specific generalized program because
Right.
my industry is like filled with quick and easy answers, but my approach towards my coaching clients, that's like the clients that I design their routines and they kind of go work out on their own. Those are
Yeah.
always individualized after a conversation that I have with them to understand like what do you need, what do you want, what's your posture like, that kind of stuff. Now, I will say for gamers, there are a lot of commonalities I can discuss. Like, for example, posturally, gamers usually have like really similar issues. So, tackling exercises that improve your core, shoulders, lower back, and your posterior chain in general are going to be helpful. So I would say, first of all, just whatever you're comfortable with is going to improve your blood flow and make you feel better anyway. So, like uphill walking on a treadmill, I think would be a really good one because that's going to force kind of like your center of gravity so that you're getting more pressure on your posterior chain and you'll get more blood flow into like your hamstrings and your lower back and just along that whole chain, which we see like a lot of tension in people who are on computers or on your phone or drive a lot, like stuff like that. Cause you're always kind of doing this internal shoulder rotation and this hunch that, gamers know what I'm talking about. They know,
Yeah.
what I'm talking about. So, aside from just like building up that comfortable habit and keeping the blood flow going, I can give like if I had to give like specific exercises, I think probably like these are I'm gonna throw these out here. There's a couple from yoga, like bird dog. You could do like cat cow. You could do seal pose is another good one. And then there's an exercise called wall angels. Let me see if that's Googleable. I think that's Googleable. Let me
You
see.
never know. Just don't go to Urban
There we go.
Dictionary.
Yes. Okay. You can type in wall angels on Google. This I encourage everybody listening to this. You don't know what a wall angel is. Google that, go look it up, and go do it every day for the rest of your life. There is nobody who cannot benefit from this exercise. It's an incredible mobility tool that I don't think I've had a single client where I've said your mobility is good enough to not do this. I do them every day. Everybody should do them as often as possible. Um, really, really useful for that internally rotated shoulder that our modern society is just gearing us into, and it'll help you a little bit with like the brine shrimp type pose that you end up with when you're on a computer for hours and hours at a time. Um, and I'm trying to think if there's any other good exercise. Maybe Superman is another good one. It's a nice contraction for the lower back there, and it'll pull up your traps so that you're in a nice pose to also again just challenge those similar postural issues that you just see really really common with gamers. Beyond that, I think it would really like be a situation where I would have to talk to the individual to give any more generalized like exercise prescription beyond that.
Yeah, no, that makes total sense to me. That's logical. Jeez, I didn't think about that. I guess I didn't think about that. I'm over here. See, that just shows how uneducated I am when it
It's a
comes to fitness.
It's a totally common question, and people want easier answers because, of course, they do. And like I said, there's a few good ones that'll work for anybody. I definitely can recommend yoga as an amazing start point. There's like 1,000 videos of any kind of yoga that you're interested in, from like the spiritual kind to the just stretch focused, like very like medical style yoga. You can find all of that on YouTube just as a search away. And I would say, adding a bit of that would would always be an idea. That's where a few of those exercises I listed come from, like bird dog, cat cow, and seal. Um, so yoga's a good start point.
I like that. I like that. I'm a big fan of yoga. I feel like yoga doesn't get nearly as much appreciation as it should. For some reason, man, there's a big stigma out there that a lot of men feel like they can't do yoga. You know what I mean? I don't get that. I love yoga.
Yes. Yeah, it's similar with Pilates, and I encourage all men out there. You go to a Pilates class, you fool. You will be humbled so fast. Yeah, Pilates is Pilates is a workout, and for some reason, yeah, it's like there's this idea that it's somehow feminine or like a non-masculine way of exercise. And to that, I just disagree. I think all forms of exercise are exercise. You know, it's you moving your body around, you're doing stretches, you're contracting and retracting your muscles. That's all you're doing.
Yeah, yeah, like you keep saying, get that blood flowing, help the heart pump, and keeping everything regular. That's really all you're aiming to do.
Yeah,
Most of us aren't going to
you'll
be
you'll
Olympic
feel
triathletes.
no, no, and you wouldn't want to be. Those people are exercising to a degree where it's unless you are really passionate about it, it's not healthy or safe for you to be doing it.
I was just going to ask that. At what point does an exercise or a workout regimen, at what point do you stop being physically healthy and start being dangerous to your body? You know what I mean? Is that a fine line or is it an obvious line?
It's a it's an obvious line to me because as a as a professional, but I think it can be kind of complicated for me. It's very simple. It comes down to what do you care about more when it comes to like if you want to do this, right? If someone comes to me and they're like, I want to learn how to do like snatches, which is a pretty dangerous exercise, or some other kind of Olympic lift. And I'll be like, okay, why do you want to do it? If their goals are like, I want to be muscular or I want to look a certain way, or if it's like, you know, I want to be healthy, then I would tell them that there's no reason for them to do this more dangerous exercise when there's safer alternatives they can do for their goals. If their goal is I specifically really think snatching is cool and I want to get really good at it so that because I would feel really good about myself if I could, I would say that there's a psychological argument to be made there that it could still be considered healthy even though it's risky because you're approaching it with an understanding of its inherent risk and it's something you want to conquer that you think will give you this psychological benefit of confidence or whatever it is you're after. So it all just comes down to that, like the individual, how they feel about it and their motivations behind pursuing it.
Okay. All right. Um, Now you had mentioned earlier, I keep hyperfixating on this verbiage here because it's just so glaringly true and noted. Like I get exactly what you meant when you said the brine shrimp pose. It brings me back to posture.
Yeah.
What's something, I try really hard to be aware of my posture because every, once or twice a day I'll be like, oh dang, my back hurts. I gotta focus on my posture a little bit more. And
Yes.
I've always been told you have to sit with your chest up and your shoulders back like you're Superman wearing a cape. Is that a correct form of posture or was I misled?
So it's more like if you have good posture, that's kind of what you'll look like. Posture is subconscious behavior. It's not intentional. You catch yourself doing it, like you said. So you can change yourself to force yourself to have good posture when you catch yourself doing it, but the underlying condition that made you have that bad posture in the first place automatically, subconsciously, is still there. And typically, that means that you have some kind of muscular issue. There's probably a mobility problem that you just need to strengthen certain muscles, and your posture will fix itself. Because, like I said, it's subconscious.
Okay. All right. So do you think that muscular issue or range of motion issue, do you think a lot of that can be fixed with corrective posture, or is that one of those case by case you'd have to get your eyes on it type of thing to even talk about?
It would need to be corrective exercise. Physical therapists can do this. A lot of personal trainers can do it. Ones that have corrective exercise specializations like me can do it. Um, which I went into that obviously because posture is my entire that's why I got into it. My spine's not shaped right. So like when it comes to posterior chain posture, that's my bread and butter. And there's tons of different exercises depending on what, where your postural problem is that you can do to fix it. Those four that I shared so far are those are like the 4 that are would probably help the most people, but again, it is with anything generalized, you're better off talking to somebody and getting a personalized prescription so that they can put you through like a movement assessment, um, and and really suss out where your mobility problems are. And that will give like a professional like me tons of information on what muscles are weaker or what muscles are working overtime to give you like relief from back pain. And that's why you end up slouching. That's why you end up doing that. You're just putting yourself in a position that doesn't hurt as much. So it just comes down to that. Just more individual, but you're never bad to grab some generalized postural support exercises and try them. Worst case scenario, you're just going to make some of your muscles a little bit more strong and have better blood flow and less inflammation. And that's not going to be a bad thing.
What about those forced little, like I've got this weird harness thing that it goes, I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. You slip your arms
Yeah.
through it and then it tightens in an X shape around your back and it like tightens down and velcros in to quote unquote force your
Yes.
correct posture.
Love those
Is that a
things.
thing or is that those so
Yes.
that's a good thing?
It's a good thing in the same way that ibuprofen is a good thing for a big leg wound. You get what I'm
Oh,
saying? You're treating a
yeah.
symptom. You're not treating the cause, but you're treating a symptom. It's really helpful in that it feels nice. I use them when my back is especially really just not cooperating and my muscles aren't doing it on their own, you know? You have to do what you have to do to make yourself comfortable, but in the meantime, you know, working on those exercises to improve the source of that discomfort is going to be your long-term strategy. But there's nothing wrong with taking an aspirin if you have a headache or a big, open wound on your leg that you're waiting to heal. It's essentially the same thing to me, you know. Treat the symptom, sure, absolutely. Just understand that it's not curing you.
Okay. That's an important distinction. That's good. I like that.
Yeah.
Um, let's see. When you're looking at fitness, you had mentioned earlier, made a comment about leveling it up and getting better, getting more comfortable, improving as you're going, essentially leveling yourself up. So in terms of looking at fitness like a survivor in ARC, if I don't know what your main stats would be for fitness. You have like what strength, flexibility, range of motion, like whatever your main stats are, how would you invest your level up points?
Mm, right. So, okay. I think
Weird question,
the
I know.
first like stat, the first no, it's not a weird question. Right? In game, I'll focus on weight, right? I'm a builder. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm focused on. I'm focused on carrying as much as possible. But in terms of fitness, the first stat's got to be mobility. And as far as our conversation is going, I'm sure that's not super surprising to hear, but
Oh,
mobility is like a category of fitness that's your foundation. That's your fundamental to start building from. So, that's regularly stretching. It's practicing functional movement like dancing, sports, swimming. And that's what's going to get you experience points in that stat. So you should be doing those kind of things, especially both static and dynamic stretching. Static stretching is like it's like the stretching people think of when you think of stretching, like holding a stretch for a while. And then a dynamic stretch is like kind of like frantic movement. Like, have you ever seen an athlete like on the sidelines, like jumping around doing something? That they're
yeah,
dynamic
yep.
stretching. So practicing both of those would be a great way to level up that mobility stat. And that's is going to help you in every single other category of fitness for as long as you do it.
Okay. That makes a lot of sense. Sounds based on where the trajectory of this conversation has gone, I would have been surprised if you didn't put the first ones into mobility, not gonna lie to you.
Yep. Yep.
All right, so what's next? Let's give your top three stats, I'd say,
Okay.
for that, if you don't mind.
After mobility, oh gosh, it would really, I feel like it's very personality dependent after that. Mobility is going to be important for everybody, right? But after
Hmm.
that, you have, I would say your categories would be like performance, it would be like muscle mass, and then it would be strength. Performance would be stuff like um being really good at like throwing something or like being able to sprint for like really fast for a long time or doing like muscle ups, stuff like that, that is the like goals that are oriented around performing a task. strength would be, exactly what it sounds like the max amount of weight that you can push. And then muscle mass would be what you want to look like, right? How much muscle you want to add or how much fat you want to take away. So, I think the most common one would probably be muscle mass because I think the most common goal that I run into usually with most people is it's either health or it's weight loss, and a lot of those are tied together sometimes depending on the person. But if we're talking about weight loss, people want to lose fat when they talk about weight loss. I always joke around that like, oh, you want to lose weight? Oh, just cut off your legs. There you go. No, you don't want to lose weight. You want to lose fat. So, like, call it what it is. You don't want to lose muscle mass. That would make you feel horrible. So, you want to
Right.
lose fat. So putting points into that is probably most people's next one, right? They either want to gain some muscle or they want to lose some fat or they want to do some mix of either. So I think second to mobility would probably be that. Start building up your foundational muscle base that you have. And then from there, moving on into, your strength category where you can improve the maximum capacity of how much the muscle you've built can perform. Either that or maybe you're someone who's more interested in those performance goals. And so the third stat would be, tied between those two, depending on what you're after. Maybe you want to be stronger. Maybe you want to be more like athletic. So it would be one of those, I think, for number three.
Good answers. Good answers. I would honestly probably have to agree with you. It is very personality dependent, so that would come down to each their own, but I feel like you did a good job getting the what you would expect the average gamer to say.
Yeah, it's
Average
a fun
person, maybe.
question. I think it's a fun question. I like it, but definitely people people don't start with mobility most of the time. That one that one usually comes in like last. They don't think about it. It's like fortitude. It's like you need that, but you don't necessarily think about it right away, but it should be at the top of your mind because at that when you're a level 1 or like if you get bit by a snake once or hit by a scorpion once, you're down. You're knocked out. You need a couple points into fortitude first. And in that same line of thinking, you need your foundational points in mobility for sure.
Oh, 100%. That's such a good analogy. Oh my gosh. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, goodness. All right. All right. Well, I have, I guess, one last question for you. A chance for you to put a little plug in here if you would like. Where can
Ooh.
people connect with you if they want to learn more about fitness, they want to learn more about ARC, they want to purchase a video subscription plan to some of your workouts? Like how can people get in touch with all of these wonderful tips that you've given us to utilize your skills?
Yeah. So, most of my online presence is all around my arc building. Um, on YouTube, I'm creating arc building showcase and tutorial videos. Username's Antonio Pepperonio on there. On Twitch, I live stream like minimum effort for fun. Same username, and a lot of times there, if you have like general fitness questions and stuff, you can always feel free to ask me while I'm streaming. I'd love to talk about it. Obviously, I can go on and on and on forever about it and I love to talk about it. So, you can feel free to follow me over there. Typically, I'm playing Arc on Twitch if I'm playing. And then if you have more fitness related stuff, I think the best way to reach out to me is probably over on Twitter. My username is at Beefaroni Jones. I've got the silliest usernames, but that's it. Yeah, and that's like where I used to keep my fitness stuff. I still kind of do mostly Arc over there, but I don't have like a designated place for my fitness stuff right now because most of it is like separate from my Arc stuff. But you can reach out to me on Twitter, and if you're interested in like workout plans or stuff, I offer those coaching services for people. We can do virtual where basically what I'll do is I'll sit down for an hour with you on Discord. We'll talk things out and see like what you need. And then I build, usually I'll do like 4, 8, or 12 week programs where I just tell you, I give you a list of exactly everything you need to do. and we talk about it, make sure that you know how to do all of them, and then you're on your own until you run into a problem, and then you reach out to me and we figure it out from there. So yeah, Twitter for fitness stuff related is definitely the best way, and all my ARC stuff. I'd say primarily go to my YouTube. Twitch is cool, but I really I need a bit more people on YouTube so I can start uploading higher quality videos. So I would say pop over there, Antonio Pepperonio. And thanks so much for having me on. This was fun. I always love talking about fitness and of course ARC.
Yeah. Thanks for being here, man. This was a lot of fun. I am not a fitness aficionado, but I definitely feel like I learned a lot from this conversation and you know, take it how you will, but I definitely feel much more motivated. I've had a gym membership, haven't used it in, over 12 months. I've paid for it without showing up once because I've been too scared and
Oh my gosh.
this conversation has given me the confidence to next week, hopefully, or be by the end of this week, even. I want to get back into the gym. So I
Yeah,
appreciate not
man.
only your time, but thanks, man. You really boosted my confidence and my willingness to get going. And everyone who's made it this far in the episode, I really hope that he's had the same impact on you because this has been great.
Oh, yeah, I hope so. Hey, that's what every trainer hopes for. I'm so passionate about it. Fitness has given me so much. I'm so happy to share it with everybody else, and definitely get in that gym, man. You won't regret it. You'll never have a time where you're like, I really wish I hadn't gone to the gym. It's not gonna happen.
Yeah, that's fair. I guess now that you mention it, I've never regretted going in the times that I have going. It's just so hard to get your butt off the couch, I feel like, at least in my experience.
Sure is. Just build that habit up. Just build that habit up. That's all it takes. Once it's there, it's easy to maintain.
Absolutely. 90 days, like you said, takes 90
90
days to
days.
turn it into a maintainable habit. And then at that point, you will start to see results and then you'll want to continue anyway. So you heard it
Mhm.
here first, folks. Antonio Pepperonio, thank you again so much for your time. I feel like I've kept you up late enough. So do you have anything else you want to say to anyone before I let you go?
Last thing I'll say is, a lot of the building I do is, for and thanks to Monarchy. So if you don't know what Monarchy is, look into it. There's a fantastic community server going on right now, and we're always looking to grow the Monarchy even further. Some awesome creators over there. Check them out.
Yeah, go check it out. Definitely some of the coolest people that I have interacted with in the art community have come from the Monarchy group. So shout out to all of them. Make sure you go check it out if you're not familiar. Um, and aside from that, thank you very much to everyone who made it this far into the episode. Hope you learned something. Hope you guys are able to start your fitness journey and improve your lives, have a higher quality of life, a little bit more happiness in there. And anything we can do, feel free to reach out. But aside from that, thank you very much, everybody. And I hope you all enjoy your week and keep on surviving.
Be well.